for us to start properly, I would like to welcome you here, Ayushi, and thanking you for accepting this invitation to participate on this first season of the Talking Thoughts project. So thank you very much for joining us.
It is a pleasure. I'm glad to be invited to talk, and I'm really excited about the initiative.
Our first question covers a little bit about your background as a designer. And it is something like, if you remember the beginning of your design journey, if maybe you chose it or you were chosen by design, how your relationship with design started. Do you remember the beginning of it?
I actually do remember. And I remember the first time I was introduced to design was, now it sounds naive, but at that time I was in 8th standard, around 12 years old, I think. And I was good with my skills. So I was going to a teacher who was supposed to, help me polish my artistic skills. And one of the teachers there, she just asked me this question: can you find 10 more ways of opening this tin can? And to me, that sounded okay. Yeah, that sounds interesting. I want like other ways of doing the same thing. That sounds fun. And then from that, she took the conversation to how the problem solving approach to design and what it means. And at that time, I understood it because it was put in simple words and it made sense to me. And then I just dig deeper into it, tried to understand the process in whichever way I could, looking at, I don't even remember how all, maybe reading some books, whatever I could get my hand on. So in my family, I did not really have a background of design. So there was no one who could really guide me. And this was a completely new field. I bumped into people who knew something about design, and then eventually came across NID, and that gave me more direction. Contacted some professors in NID who gave me more direction, and it just kept going on from there. And I guess for me, then it was just, yeah, this is it. I can do this for my entire life.
Now that you are a designer, what are your thoughts on it from a perspective of what it means, what it represents in your life? What would you say it means to be a designer?
Wow, that's a good question. And I guess the answer is so broad for me. Like in terms of context, design is such a broad field, and it covers so many things. And at the same time, we can really, actually, I don't, yeah, it covers so many things that it would be very difficult to say one thing is what design is and what I see myself as this designer or that designer. I think that question always changes. I do see myself working in the social design realm, and that itself has the participatory design, co-creation, co-designing, inclusive design, design for equity, and like those are also broad words that I'm using right now, which all come under the design as a field. And I guess that's what I like about it all as well. I like the fact that it is at this intersection of social sciences. You understand humans, you focus on humans, while at the same time there is material sciences and material studies, and you have to understand sort of the scientific ways of doing things. So it's like at the intersection of those two, and I guess that's what excites me about design, and that's what uh, I would say is one of the key elements of design that make it something that I feel is very valuable in this world.
And what do you enjoy the most about working and studying or being involved in the design field?
Oh, you're asking me amazing questions because I love talking about design. I feel as a profession, as a field of work, it incorporates this notion of play and notion of uh, it has a sense of humbleness to it, like how we accept in the process that we'll make mistakes and it's all right. and we have to, and while at the same time making mistakes is not acceptable in a lot of fields. You cannot just go ahead and say that, okay, this might not work out and it would be wrong, but I'm going to try and do it. That's, you cannot really say that. And as a designer, you embody that. It's not always easy, but you embody that. And I think that is something that I really value and really appreciate in design.
What was the best project you developed or participated in until today?
One of the projects that I can speak to, I mean, in general, designers are very critical of their projects, and so goes for me. So I would not say the best project, but one of the projects that I had a lot of fun working on was in my fall semester of Trans-D program. So we were working with student veterans, trying to understand the challenges that they face while they transition back to the civilian society and join graduate school to continue their studies. A lot of the students that uh, pursue graduate education had, like, right after high school they had joined the military, so most of their life experiences and worldview was defined by the military style and the way of doing things in the military. And the way things work there are a lot different from uh, I mean, yeah, they're definitely different from the way things work in the civilian world. It's much more messy here, and things are very structured in the military. You know what you're expected to do, and everything is laid out for you. And those sort of expectations are uh, always clear, and that's how they, in a way, develop the way they expected to work in the world. Now, a lot of times when these students came back and to school, it was almost like a culture shock to them. Like, when they saw the way things function here and from how they had anticipated it to be. So, one of the challenges that came out was, how do we bridge that gap? How do we figure out a way of uh, like finding supporting students and easing in to the civilian society and the way things, and understanding the culture, and in a way unlearning what they'd learned in the military. So we designed something to keep it a little playful and engaging. We designed something called Handbook of Unlearning, where the senior veteran students of the institution would put down their little anecdotes, little thoughts, or their tips and tricks of how to survive in the school. And they would hand it over to the incoming students in their orientation week. And it was supposed to be a tradition of sorts that would go on every year. So the handbook builds every year, and it gets passed on. So not only it becomes a way of introducing the students to these new ways of doing things that they will face, but also becomes a way of reminding them that there is a community. There are a lot of people who are like them, who have had similar experiences, who are part of this education system, and they can rely on them and they can feel connected. I feel that was one of the projects that I really enjoyed, and it was a big learning curve for me, especially not having any background of what a veteran experience looks like. And it's very different in the States, and in
Yeah.
India, it's very different. So I had no context.
Could you tell me something about the best part of being a student? What would you say is the best part about it?
You're officially allowed to keep learning, and even your title says that you're a student, so you're here to learn. And when you are curious and you ask all those questions, everybody kind of expects that out of you. And that doesn't really, I mean, sometimes it might change when you go in the field and you start working as a professional, and then you sometimes are expected to know things, which is fair to some extent, but we are always learning. So I think, yeah. And also, I mean, now that there is a summer break going on, I guess I'll just add this. I'm kind of missing school and being in school and being surrounded by all of these people who bring in so many different perspectives and are constantly, you're engaged, like your mind is constantly engaged. and that kind of goes away when you become a professional of sorts. So I think I love that about being a student, and I would miss it if it goes away.
My next question is, what is the hardest part? And maybe you just addressed it.
Yes, I guess. The hardest part is also the same thing, I guess. Definitely.
Missing the
Uh,
routine and your colleagues and your daily contact, probably in person, because we are
yeah,
so away from each other these days.
yeah, definitely. I think and it becomes even more and more prominent every day as days are going by. It's not something that, at least I'm not getting used to it.
It's precisely what our next topic is about, the coronavirus situation, because since this pandemic started and the lockdown measures and social distancing provoked a lot of changes in our daily lives and
Mm.
also in our routine as students or designers at our work, our jobs, and etc. So what would you say are the biggest changes this pandemic provoked in your routine as a student or as a designer, or in the way you work, in your projects and stuff like that?
That's a good question. It's very reflective question. So I think almost everything changed, or a lot of it changed, because all the interactions kind of became on screen. So I suddenly realized the amount of screen time I have now, and that is what feels more tiring than the fact that I can't really and not being able to see anyone in person. Another thing that I feel is it's so more hard to understand people and get a sense of room. You know what I mean? Like when in classrooms, and we spoke about it, and I've been thinking about it a lot these days, is how over uh, this like digital communication, even though we can talk and I can hear you, but and I can see you, but that's all. I cannot really get any other inputs apart from those, and my view is limited to the screen. I don't really understand the body language. There are the interactions that would happen in a room otherwise. When you walk into the class and then you talk to the person sitting next to you, I cannot have those conversations anymore. And all of those change the way anything happens, and how we build relationships, and how I can, like, it's okay to do one-on-one conversations. They're not lost as much, but as soon as it comes to group discussions, they're either just groups or they're just individual. There's no in between. There are no interaction with the person sitting next to me because there is no one. There's just a block on the screen. And I guess that is one of the biggest change that I'm still struggling to understand and see how to work through it, because we have to do it for the next few months to come at least.
Yes, I agree with you. And now about your learning process. When you want to learn something new, what do you do?
I mean, it depends on what I want to learn. I mean, internet is one of the places where you try and now you try and find academic journals, and since you know some of the things, you find more reliable sources of information. That is all secondary information. I do feel one of the ways, or at least, yeah, I'm currently working on a project, and I have all the secondary data. I have the resources from the workshop and everything that people said. But one thing I'm struggling with is not being able to go in the field and be in that room and be in that space where the problem space, or where we are working, the challenging, the space, the physical space where it's all happening, uh, not being able to go there. All of these other learnings that happen from these other senses that we just spoke about, it's all missing. And that is hindering even in the way I can come up with ideas, or come up with, or really identify what are those layers of issues that are there, that exist. Like it's easy to understand the superficial level, the two levels down, but like the deeper level challenges that are there. Like even in co-creation, when we speak about it, the learning that happens in the group is, you know, some of it is lost, and I think that is the important bit, which is being in person and being able to do that, and being able to relate and understand from the context. So
It's if you have a dream as a designer.
a dream as a designer. Oh God, designers have so many dreams. I think we just dream every day. But I guess one dream would be that one day I'm able to explain to my family what I really do and they truly understand what I do. I guess that would be the ultimate dream come true.
I relate so badly with your dream.
I think I had another conversations about this today with my family, with my father and my brother, and trying to explain how what are these designerly ways of knowing things, intuition, how that's important, how empathy is important, and how all of these experiential learning that we constantly like we leverage those things in our understanding and learning. And to your previous question, and now how to even explain how that's important and relevant and how it actually makes sense is at least I don't have the vocabulary yet. And I hope I do someday. And I'm able to explain to them truly and to the rest of the world for that matter. Like, it's so important that people understand this. And I don't have to face that question again when my uh, relatives ask me what I do, and then they just nod with a confused face of, okay, fine, I guess. Fashion design, is that what you do? And sometimes you have to just be like, no, but you know what? Design. Let's just stick to one word.
And now our last question, truly, it's about DESIS network, because we are all members of it as students.
Yes.
And I was wondering if you have any ideas or any suggestions or comments that could enrich our discussion, or maybe something you believe we could do together in the future as students of DESIS.
Awesome. That's a great question again. Actually, one of the answers is what you guys are already doing, and you began this initiative is, I think, really important to just have these conversations and even share our experiences and just know that there are so many, like, you're literally situated on another continent, but to be able to relate our experiences and have people just know that there are people around the world who believe in certain set of values that we also, like, we as individuals also believe in. So I think that's amazing, and just laugh about it at sometimes how people don't understand us. So I think just to add to that, one more thing would be, even like when I try and go out in any project, I know there's so many resources that are already there. There are so many projects, there are so many case studies that students have done, that design professionals have done, but they never really, we don't have access to it. There is, like, there are platforms that have tried to do that, but they're just polished works. But when it comes to systems work, when it comes to research, there's no place where we can find them. There's no network of place, and I feel DESIS can bring, uh, at least in the specific field that DESIS tries to address. And maybe if there is a way to just have our reach out to our network of people and have them pull together their projects and just highlight their projects, and for me, or for any other student to be able to go back and see all of those student projects that have already happened and learn from them, and then work like similar to the project that Amplify was about, just amplify these voices that we already have, amplify these projects that we already have.
And Ayushi, thank you again for joining us. And I enjoyed very much talking to you.
You made it really easy to talk.